Welcome to the video. We're going to build a Richard Macropad together. So if you'd like to follow along when you build yours, you can do so. This isn't going to be complete. This is very rudimentary, so I would still recommend like going through the guide. There are a few very, very important steps that you need to follow. You have to put the headers in first, then the switchers, then the switches, and then the microcontroller. So headers, switches, microcontroller. You have to do it in that order. If you put the headers and then the microcontroller on, which is very easy to do, good luck. You'll have to, I'll show you how to fix it. You'll have to use sockets and it's complicated. Just don't do that. Okay, so. I have this printed jig, but you won't really need that until you get to the encoders, and I'll show you an alternative that you can use. But there's a good chance that I will already have the switches in for you because I want to test to make sure that the switches go in the holes, so I'll just leave them in for you. But if not, go ahead and put the switches in like this. If you hold it like that, they'll be facing this way, just like that. Then you can flip it over. Then, like I talked about, and you can put that to the side. We're going to do the headers first, then the switches, then the microcontroller. And that didn't work. So hopefully the bag opens a little bit easier for you. So, yeah, it says, please read the guide. There is a specific order required, which is true. Let me zoom in. There we go. Okay, so we'll put these headers in like this. And I'll show you after I put them in. So we'll put the long side up like that, and you can see this is where the text is. It says the Richard. And we've got the long side, and you'll notice they're not quite straight. They're kind of like all weird and stuff. So you don't want to solder them in like that. So what you do is you put the microcontroller on the headers, but like I said, do not solder this. So do not solder this right now. What you'll do is you'll flip it over and you'll solder the bottom side. You'll solder the headers first. You'll just use the microcontroller to hold everything. So, yeah, and I like to use a rubber band to keep everything in place. So you can go up the shaft, I guess. Yeah. And it just holds everything in place like that. Then we can just solder in these corners here. So let me grab my solder. Zoom that in. I think my iron is a bit loose. Can't really tighten it though because it's kind of hot. Actually, well, I'll do that later. So we got the corners in there, and then let's finish it off. I'm gonna pull the microcontroller off right now so that I don't accidentally do something that I regret. Okay. Just solder all the pins. Yeah, just on this side. Like I said, headers, then switches, then microcontroller. Hi, bud. Okay. So now that we have that, Now we do the switches. So we'll place this right on here, like so. And then, yeah. So this switch right here, and the reason why we have to do the switches next is because this switch, sorry, my cat. Bud. Ugh, you little stinker. Yeah, okay. So the reason why we have to do these switches, or we have to do the headers and then the switches, is because this switch is actually under the microcontroller. So once you solder that microcontroller in, you can't solder the switch. So that also means that it is permanent. You will not be able to remove the switch, the tip of the, yeah, you won't be able to remove the tip switch. Personally, I don't think that's a problem at all. But if you want to use sockets, then you should. And I would recommend doing that now. But I don't think it's necessary to replace switches on Macropads. So, yeah. Let's do the switches. So we just solder them in. And be careful not to burn the case with your iron. Use flux core solder if you can. All that good stuff. And I have this jig here. Why am I not using this? Yeah, what Zezio said. Okay. So we have that. Now we can drop in the microcontroller. Like so. Got the microcontroller. And we can solder that in. And it's a little tough. Just take your time. So you might have to like rotate this around and stuff, but I highly recommend using some sort of flux core solder. Because it's difficult to get in here. Be careful not to burn the buttons as well. So the sides of the buttons, you have to go on the outside here. Okay. I would recommend inspecting it, making sure that there's no shorts. now's the time to do it, especially before you plug it in. Okay. So next up, these holes will already be drilled. So just ignore that. Okay. And then finally what you'll do is let me grab some new encoders as well. So I will be visually inspecting. There's a little tab on these encoders here, right there. And I will be visually inspecting each Macropad to see if these tabs need to be snipped. So for I'm using multiple printers for all of these, and some of them don't print smaller holes than others. So anyways, long story short, rather than like reprinting a whole bunch of them for no reason, I'm just gonna snip some people might have snipped tabs, some of them might not be snipped. So in this case, it needs to be snipped, and I will visually check each order. So no need to worry. But you'll cut these little tabs here off, and then you'll snip the set of 3 pins flush with the encoder, and I'll show you up close. Just like that. And then you'll bend these 2 pins out just a little bit like that. So there's a slight angle. You'll do that for both of them. I need to get better snips. All right. Bend these straight. Okay. And then, yeah, so most people will not have this. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to prop this up. So you could use something like this. Really anything to make it so that these just slide in there, because the shaft of this encoder sticks out more. So you have to prop up the Macropad. So, yeah. And actually, you know what? Never mind. You don't need to do that. I forgot. So you'll put the encoder in. You'll line up the holes. So you've got the 2 holes. The 2 pins go on the 2 side there, and then the 3 pins go over there. You'll put the washer on, concaved. Like this. So there's like a bit of a concave to it. And then finally the nut. Tighten down your nut. And you can use a 10mm socket, and you'll just want it just to be tight enough to where it stays in place. And then you can, what I would recommend is this encoder will move around if you tighten it too hard. So just enough to where it stays in place. So I'm going to do that for this one too. Yeah, you can see it's twisted there, so you can just loosen it up. There. So that it's straight. Just like that. Then you just solder those pins together. So yeah, it'll just be easier if you follow along on the solder cam. But you'll connect this lead right here to this guy. This lead to this guy. Just like that. And you'll do that on the other side. So you can see they're all connected together. And then for the button section of the encoder, you just reach in here, and you'll get solder all over those joints. Just like that. Now you can tighten these down fully, but I would just recommend hand tightening it with a socket, 10mm socket. And then what you'll do is you'll flash the firmware. So you'll plug it in. You'll hold down the boot button and you'll plug it in. And then you'll drag the file into the thing that shows up. And so I would just reference the build guide for that because I don't have it all prepared for you right here. But do that. Test out each of the components. You'll want to add your knobs and your keycaps. These are, I think, brass knobs and keycaps, or in what color? Teal keycaps. And then you'll add your back plate. And so you'll just screw it in. With the acrylic, just don't, you can over tighten it, so just be careful not to crack it. Once you have the acrylic, then you can add your keyboard feet if you want. You don't have to. And that's it. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to just reach out to me on Discord. Yeah, the important thing is to make sure to do the headers, then the switches, then the microcontroller. But yeah, enjoy.